I was 26 years old. I'd been losing my entire life. And in 1961, I met a man by the name of Ray Stanford. You had to admire the guy. He was a good-looking guy. He was very successful. He always had money, and he was very happy. He got me to sit down and take a look at my results. He put a big R on a sheet of paper. And he said, Bob, let that represent the results that you're getting in your life. Then he put three letters down beside it, 2 H's and a W. And he said, let that represent happiness, health, and wealth. Now he said, I'm going to ask you a question. He said, do you think I'm a happy guy? And I said, yeah, you seem pretty happy to me. He said, have you ever seen me when I was sick? And I had to admit I hadn't. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broke? Well, he said, you know, you've got to be one of the most miserable people I've ever met. And the guy was right on the nut. I was an unhappy person. And he said, you're always sick. He said, you don't have a terminal illness or anything, but you've always got a headache, a cold, or something. And he said, you're always broke. I was earning $4,000 a year and I owed $6,000. I owed everybody that I knew money. He said, why don't you change? Well, you know, it never entered my mind that I could. I think I just got up and put in my day. And I think a lot of people live that way. And he said, do you ever read anything? And I said, no, I can't read. Now, that wasn't true. I could, but not well. And he said, you know, the secret of the ages are locked up in books. If you do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Well, of course, I didn't believe that. I mean, I had never had what I wanted. And so when he said that, there's no way that I could believe it. But there was one key point. I believed he believed it. And for some strange reason, I think I locked into that. He gave me a book. He gave me this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. All I wanted was some money. I figured if I had some money, my whole world would change. And my first goal, where he said, you've got to sit down and you've got to write your goal. You've got to write it on a card, and you've got to carry the card in your pocket. I've been doing that now for 55 years. I wrote on the card that I was going to have $25,000 by New Year's Day of 1970. I really didn't believe it would happen. I gave myself almost a decade to do it. And, you know, the foundation of this is anything the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Well, I've altered that a bit for the start. I think anything the mind can conceive, if you think about it often enough, you will come to believe it. So you don't have to believe it to start off with, because I didn't believe it. And I'm speaking from experience here. I didn't believe I'd ever get the $25,000. I didn't even know anyone with $25,000. But I kept reading the book. Now, do you know, a strange thing happened. See, when you write something, writing causes thinking. Thinking creates an image. The image then is impregnated into cells in your brain. All I was thinking about prior to that was debt. If a person has a goal of getting out of debt, they will probably stay in debt forever, because that's what you think about. And whenever you think about and get emotionally involved with, you're going to attract. You get on a frequency that it's on and you attract it. I kept reading the card and I started to think of earning money. Now, many people would say, well, weren't you thinking of that before? No, I was thinking of debt. And because I was thinking about it, I started to hear people talking about it. And because I heard people talking about it, I would start thinking about it more. And someone said, there's good money cleaning floors. Well, I'm not proud. I thought, I'll clean floors. I was on the fire department, so I had a lot of time off. I had to borrow $1,000, and that wasn't an easy thing to do because I was not a good bet. But anyway, I got $1,000. And I bought a used floor machine and some buckets and mops. And I started to clean one office. I'd wash the floor twice a month. I got $15 a time. Then I got a job of cleaning Kirby's Construction in Leaside in Toronto. And I get $65 a month. Now I'm up to $100 a month, $95. And if I was only earning $400 a month, that was a pretty good raise. I thought the answer was, get another office to clean, get another office to clean. And I got so busy, I literally passed out on the street. I was exhausted. I got so locked into cleaning, and I thought the answer was work harder. Napoleon Hill said, if you are one of those people who believe that hard work and honesty alone will bring riches, perish the thought, because it's not true. When I passed out on the street, from exhaustion, I woke up and there was a big cop looking at me, and there was flashing lights going all around, and there was a crowd of people. I guess somebody thought I dropped dead. Now, I was maybe 28, and I see guys with a stretcher, and I just came to. It was a scary situation, but I talked them out of taking me to the hospital because that's what they wanted to do. And I got off by myself, and I got thinking about it, and I thought, I'm doing something wrong. And a little voice in my head said, if you can't clean all the offices, don't clean any of the offices. So I got all dressed up, and I got other people cleaning offices. And you know, in less than 5 years, I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. Within a year of picking up this book, with no formal education, I had 2 months high school. I had no business experience. So you see, they were good reasons for not winning, and I bought into it. But Ray told me, he said, Bob, that's why you can't win. How about all the reasons why you can? But then it dawned on me, a lot of people had bought Think and Grow Rich, and they weren't earning $1 million. A lot of people were cleaning offices, but they weren't doing what I was doing. And I started to question a lot of ideas. Like the idea that you have to be really smart if you're going to earn a lot of money. I was earning a lot of money, and I knew I wasn't that smart. So I started to question all my beliefs. And that's when I made up my mind I was going to figure out why I was winning. I did not believe that there was an emotional or capricious God that reached out and said, let's let Bob have a turn. I didn't think I was lucky, but I thought somebody has to know why I win, and I'm going to figure it out. And I started to study. He said there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one's ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. He said the state of mind must be belief and not mere hope or wish. So then I think, well, how do you believe? Where do your beliefs come from? If you just say, I believe, there's more to it than that. And one day I was having lunch with a mentor associate of mine, Leland Valvanderwal. And just in idle conversation, he said, our belief system's based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if you reevaluate a situation, your belief about that situation will change. Our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if you reevaluate a situation, your belief about that situation will change. And suddenly, I realized I'd figured it out. It had taken me 9.5 years from that day in London, trying to figure out why did I change. 9.5 years later, in the restaurant, it dawned on me. My belief system had changed because I was reevaluating who I was. No amount of reading or memorizing makes us successful. It's the understanding and application of wise thoughts that count. So I started to study this from a totally different perspective. And when I did figure it out, I started to understand Napoleon Hill better. Because all he wanted to do was teach it. And when I got it figured out, that's all I wanted to do was teach it. The thing I think I've got from Napoleon Hill, more than anything else, I question my own beliefs. We're conditioned. So you find a child by 5 years old, they're pretty well programmed for the rest of their life. I was, until I was 26. When Ray Stanford gave me this book, everything in my life changed. We operate on the premise that everyone thinks, and the very truth is that very few people think. My old employer and mentor, Earl Nightingale, often said that if the average person said what they were thinking, they would be speechless. The late and great educator, Dr. Kenneth McFarland, said 2% of the people think, 3% think they think, and 95% would actually rather die than think. You know, Henry Ford said thinking is the hardest work there is, which is the probable reason so few people engage in it. When I first picked up this book, if you had asked me, do you ever think? I would say, of course. The truth is, I very rarely created a thought. You see, thinking is the highest function that you and I are capable of. The late Dr. Lawrence Rampell said thinking is a subject which can be learned just as we learn typing and playing the piano. The problem is, very few courses teach thinking. You see, an idea is a thought or a collection of thoughts directed towards a purpose. Most people would never do what they're doing if they're thinking. Listen to the average conversation that's going on. People would never say what they were saying if they were thinking. No, the truth is that thinking is not something everybody gets involved in. But you start studying this material, and I can assure you one thing, you will begin to think. And all the great leaders, all down through history, have been in complete and unanimous agreement on that one point, that you and I become what we think about. In other words, we become whatever images are funneled into our subjective mind. Now, I've done a lot of research into Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. I have read anywhere where Carnegie made from 20 to 50 millionaires. Napoleon Hill has made millions of millionaires. I've earned millions of dollars in the past year. No formal education, no business experience. People say you can't do that. You can do anything. We are God's highest form of creation. There is nothing on the planet that will equal us. And I found what this book did, it got me into understanding who I am. I represent a lineage of people that have all studied the same thing and they've all worked at it. There's Carnegie, then there was Hill, then there was Earl Nightingale. I walked away from my business earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and I took a job for $18,000. I was prepared to pay Earl Nightingale to let me work for him. I decided I was going to teach this for the rest of my life. And I've been doing that. And I work all over the world today. I worked with Earl for 5 years, and I thought, no, I've got to go out and teach this on my own. And so I sat down in a house on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois. I took a pen and I said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. We just did a seminar where we were teaching this information, and we were streaming into 78 countries. We have representatives all over the world. You see, the beautiful truth is, you and I have more potential than we will ever understand. We've got phenomenal powers. He has as the last principle in here, intuition. And I've studied that a lot since I first picked up this book. I've become extremely intuitive. And I found something that I don't think Napoleon Hill had got to yet. Intuition is an intellectual factor. It's like perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, and intuition. These are higher faculties. These are the faculties that separate us from all of the rest of the animal kingdom. All the rest of the animal kingdom is completely at home in their environment. They blend in. You and I are totally disoriented in our environment. And that is because we've been given the godlike ability to create our own environment. That's what Carnegie found out. That's what he got Hill to study. Because Andrew Carnegie said it was an absolute shame that people like himself was going to their grave with all this knowledge locked up in their bones. And that's what he wanted Napoleon Hill to go out and research, to write the laws of achievement. And he did a phenomenal job. I have got more from this book than anything else in my entire life. It's helped me have whatever I want. I was 81 on my last birthday. I got more energy than most people, 21. The idea that you should slow down when you get older is a false idea. Most of our ideas are false ideas. Our beliefs we inherit. They're passed down from one generation to the next. Most of them won't hold water. The idea that you should slow down as you get older is a false concept. All the energy, all the power is evenly present 100% in all places at the same time, so it's within us. And I found out, as he points out, that desire is the triggering mechanism. The thing I think I've got from Napoleon Hill, more than anything else, I question my own beliefs. The part of this book that I think I've probably got as much from as anything is the chapter on persistence. I was driving to the airport with a business associate of mine, John Canary, and we were talking back and forth. What one quality stands out more than anything else that contributes to any success we might have? And we both agreed it was persistence. Because when you start doing anything, I don't care if it's maybe a weight loss program or it's building a business, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to run into a brick wall and everything in you is going to want to quit. That's what the paradigm does to you. Well, he points out here, he said there may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but he said the quality is to the character of a person like what carbon is to steel. In another part, he said, there is no substitute persistence. It cannot be supplanted by any other quality. And he said, remember this in the beginning, when the going gets tough. He said, those who have cultivated the habit of persistence, and all the way through he brings up habit. Habit's very, very important. Well, he said, those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. He said, no matter how many times they're defeated, they finally arrive up towards the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears there is a hidden guide. Not sometimes, almost all the time it appears there's a hidden guide whose duty is to test you through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on going, the world cries, bravo, I knew you could do it. But he said this hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. And he said those who can't take it simply don't make the grade. He said those who can take it are bountifully rewarded for their persistence. They receive as their compensation whatever goal they're pursuing. Now down towards the bottom of this page, I found really interesting. He's obviously in New York. And he's in a hotel room looking down on Broadway. And he uses Broadway. You could put anything in, but Broadway's a metaphor here. He said, as these lines are being written, I look up from my work, and I see before me less than a block away the great mysterious Broadway, the graveyard of dead hopes, and the front porch of opportunity. From all over the world, people come to Broadway, seeking fame, fortune, power, love, or whatever it is that the human calls success. Once in a great while, someone steps out from a long procession of seekers, and the world hears another person has mastered Broadway. But he said, Broadway's not easily nor quickly conquered. She acknowledges talent, recognizes genius, and pays off in money only after a person has absolutely refused to quit. Now, he said the secret is told here. He said, we know then that this person has discovered the secret of how to conquer Broadway. The secret is always inseparably attached to one word, persistence. I have read that particular section probably a couple of thousand times over the past 50 years. If I'm working with a new group of people, maybe new salespeople, I always cover that. You've got to keep reading this, and you've got to keep studying this. When you read a good book through the second time, you don't see something in it you didn't see before. You see something in yourself that wasn't there before. The beautiful part of studying Hill's work, and I mean study it, don't just read it, study it. Commit your life to studying it, because what you're doing is studying the basic principles that some of the wealthiest people in the world have lived by. You and I are spiritual beings. And if we are not inspired to do something, it's because we're not thinking of who we are. The essence of us is spirit. And spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. He gets into that so beautifully in the area of imagination. He said it's the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force the world's ever known. It's the imagination that permits us to move into the spiritual essence of who we are. It's your imagination that takes the idea that comes to your consciousness, and that spirit wanting to express itself greater way through you, because spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. And so it's the raising of our conscious awareness. Hill found this out. He writes about it. That's what changes our life. We're spiritual beings. We've been gifted with an intellect, and we live in a physical body. Everything we own at the time of our death is going to belong to someone else. So it's not what we own. We're merely custodians. It's what we do with our life that makes a difference. Hill was an excellent example of that. You've got to be persistent. And he gives us a very simple formula here. He said there are 4 simple steps which lead to the habit of persistence. Number 1, a definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its fulfillment. Number 2, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. Number 3, a mind, this is very important, closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. And number 4, a friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. He said these 4 steps are essential for success in all walks of life. When you start studying Napoleon Hill's work, and you really start to get into the spirit of it, you're going to be inspired, because that's what inspiration is. It's in spirit. And get into the spirit of his work. He had one objective. He wanted to wake you up. He wanted to wake me up. He did wake me up. Hopefully you're awake as well. And as you start studying into this, you'll start to realize there is literally no end to what you're capable of doing. He said, ideas are intangible forces, but they have more power than the physical brains that gave birth to them. They have the power to live on long after the brain has created them has turned to dust. Napoleon Hill's been dead since 1970. But the idea that his brain developed and worked with lives on because of people like me, because of people like you, because of the people that are putting this documentary together. This could be the most important book in your library. When I set a new goal, I have difficulty believing I can do it. Intellectually, I've studied this long enough that I know I can. But it isn't your intellect that does it. If it was the intellect that does it, our school system would be screaming successful. But we've got people graduating from universities all over the world. They've got an enormous amount of knowledge in their intellect, and yet they're losing. They're broke. They can't find work. So it's not your intellect. Intellectually, I've studied this long enough to know that if I can see it in my mind, I can do it. You've got to believe it in your heart. You see, the heart is what the early Greeks referred to, the heart, as the subconscious mind. There's a whole chapter in here on the subconscious mind. And it's very, very powerful. Because until you internalize the idea, it isn't going to happen. You see, you can want something once or of a conscious nature. That's your intellectual part of your personality. The desire is the idea in your subconscious mind seeking expression outside through your action. Desire is when you've internalized the idea. You've got to believe you can do it on a subconscious level. Now, you can come to believe it through repetition. If you take what you want and start to imagine yourself with it, he writes a whole chapter on imagination. The imagination enables you to go into the future and bring the future into the present. You've got to act like the person you want to become. That's what William James said. That's what Hill talks about. Well, when we do that and do it over and over, you come to believe. You come to believe. Take this man's word for it. He spent his whole life studying the wealthiest and the most successful people in the world. It's like Ray Stanford said to me, I think it would be a very prudent move on your part if you spent your whole life attempting to understand and apply it. I'm no different than you. I am no different. I may have more, I may have less, but I am no different than you. Understand this. We are all the same everywhere in the world. I don't care if you go into China, go into Kosovo, go into Buenos Aires, go into New York. We are all the same. We look different, we sound different, but when you get past the culture, and culture's nothing but group habit, that's exactly what it is. When you get past the culture, we are all the same. There is one mind. There's not millions of minds, there is one. And we are an individualized expression of it. And when we tap into that universal mind, it operates by law. The idea must move into form. That's one of the first laws of the universe, the perpetual transmutation of energy. You see, studying Napoleon Hill got me to study the laws that this whole universe operates with. You understand that winter never follows winter. When the tide goes out, it always comes back in. I got a beautiful Japanese maple just outside my studio at home. Every fall, the leaves fall off that, but every spring they come back. They operate by law. The law is God's modus operandi. Hill's teaching the law in here, and he does it in such a magnificent way, you're not even sure that that's what he's teaching you. You just know it, and you do it. You want to have a goal that's worth failing for. Don't ask, are you worthy of the goal? Ask, is the goal worthy of you? You're trading your life for it. An ideal is an idea that you have fallen in love with. Alfred Adler, the great psychologist, said, I am grateful to the idea that has used me. Everything we do is nothing but spirit at work. Spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. So we should always be going for bigger goals. And we don't go for bigger goals to get. We go for bigger goals to grow. Our organization always wants to earn more money. Not to have the money, but what we can do with it. Money is an instrument that we use to extend the good we do far beyond our own physical presence. Our company, the Proctor Gallagher Institute, is dedicated to supporting the Unstoppable Foundation, which is a foundation that builds schools in Africa, and now they're going into India. Now, our company builds a school. We donate enough to build a school every 2.5 weeks. It's our personal goal to build a new school every day. But it's not just build a school. We go into areas in Africa where there is no education, there's no clean water, there's no nutritious food, and we put the whole program in. Nutritious food, healthy, clean water, education, change the culture, help them understand who they are, help them develop their conscious awareness. I believe that's where Napoleon Hill was leading, that's where I've gone, that's where our company goes, and that's where we want to help other people. We want them to begin to think. You know, I remember when Cary Grant died. In the Toronto Daily Star, there was a whole page dedicated to comments that people made about him. In the bottom right-hand corner was a quote from Archibald Leach. And it said, "I acted like Cary Grant for so long, I became him." Cary Grant built the persona in his mind of who and what he wanted to be, and he became that. And that's what we all do. We build images in our mind. Unfortunately, other people build those images in our mind when we're in our little life, when we're just infants. And most people never shake those images free. If we begin to study and we start to understand who we are and what we are, we will build an image of ourselves that'll make us so much more effective. We can actually accomplish anything. What Napoleon Hill said is right on the money. Whatever we can conceive and believe, we will achieve. As you're watching this, I want you to stop and ask yourself, who am I? Do you know that there's enough power, potential power, locked up in the electrons in the atoms of your body to light up the building you're in for probably a month? You've got more power in your hand than you'll probably ever utilize. You've got to ask yourself, who am I? Your brain is an electronic switching station. As you activate brain cells, you alter the vibratory rate of various parts of your body. We've got more potential. Our central nervous system is an electrical system that would make the supercomputer look like an absolute toy. If a person's going to accomplish anything of any consequence in their life, they have to get into the spirit of it. In other words, I think we have to understand, where does the information come from? Where does the energy come from to create things? Well, we go to spirit. Spirit flows to and through us, and we can think the highest function that we're capable of, and we build an image in our mind. Then we have to be true to that image. We have to use our will to hold that picture on the screen of the mind, and we turn the image back over to spirit, which is within us. Through the reciprocal law of spirit, it gives it back to us in physical form. Now, this is truly getting into the spirit of the thing. That is what being inspired is all about. And all great work came about because someone was inspired to do it. All the great paintings, Rembrandt, Van Gogh, all of them, they were inspired to do the great work. We have to understand that whatever Rembrandt or Van Gogh used, we have available to us. We're God's highest form of creation. Spirit flows to and through us. It's our responsibility to decide what we're going to do with it. I think we've got an obligation to do great work. We're only here for a short time, not a long time. And we've got the faculties and the ability to do great work. I think we should.